My name is Dr. Kevin Pecca. I wanted to make a podcast that exposes people to the true miracles of life and health. All the guests on this show have been specially picked because they bring something positive to the world. They have some of the most amazing and inspiring life stories. These people have a passion for living, healing, and leaving the world better than they found it. There is something inside these people that made them keep fighting through all the tough times, even when people told them it was not possible. They carried on and made their lives beautiful again. And now they are sharing their experiences with the world. This is the Expect Miracles podcast. Enjoy the show. This first episode, I wanted to tell you my story, which is the sole reason why this podcast came to be. About 7 years ago, 3 weeks before my 20th birthday, I had a traumatic brain injury that flipped my entire world upside down. I sustained my last ice hockey concussion, and it left me with blurred vision, headaches, vertigo, lightheadedness, brain fog, knee pain, hand tremors, anxiety, and depression. Most days, these symptoms would happen all at once, but if I was having a good day, I would only experience a couple symptoms at a time. I remember feeling like I was constantly in a dream, and I couldn't conversate with people anymore. I just had no idea what to say to anybody. I went to my primary care physician, and they told me to stop playing hockey for 2 weeks, rest up, and the symptoms should dissipate and go away. However, at the end of that 2-week period, I began to feel worse and knew that there was something seriously wrong. I remember calling my mom on the phone and telling her that there was something very wrong and then we needed to go see a specialist. I saw a couple different neurologists, and they put me on seizure medication to help my hands from stop shaking. They put me on antidepressants to boost my mood, and they gave me painkillers to numb the pain. And after trying this medication for 3 months, I felt worse than I ever felt in my entire life. So I stopped taking the medication and drifted into a very dark place. I remember sitting down for my first appointment at the National Concussion Center in Washington, D.C. And after I told the doctor my story, he looked right at me and said, "Kevin, what if I told you you were going to have to live with this for the rest of your life?" I looked back at him and said, "Well, I think I want a new doctor." I was furious at that point. All of these brilliant people were telling me that there was no hope and that I was going to have to live with this for the rest of my life. And after hearing this several times by several different doctors, you start to believe them. 2 years had gone by at this point, and I'm still experiencing every single symptom I had from the concussions. And for the first time in my life, I had no desire to live anymore. It felt like I was in a constant hell, and nobody had any answers or knew what to do. The last 2 years in college, I pretty much locked myself in my room and slept all day because it was unbearable to tolerate the pain and stay awake during the day. I remember waking up early one morning, as the knee pain always did. The blurred vision and the headache started to kick in, and I rolled over onto my side and thought this was the last day. I cannot take the pain anymore. I don't want to live. I got up in bed and started bawling my eyes out crying. And after about 5 minutes, I got myself together and realized that taking my life was not the answer, and I needed to see this through and get my life back. At this point, I was willing to try anything. I went to a Catholic university with a huge basilica on campus. So I figured I'd go see a priest and maybe he could bless me and take the pain away. I walked into his office thinking I was going to get a blessing, a couple Hail Marys, a couple Our Fathers, and then I would be on my way. Little did I know I would get the best advice of my life that day, and it had nothing to do with religion. The priest told me, "Kevin, you can do all the hoping, wishing, and praying in the world, but if you do not go out and find the root cause of this problem, you are never going to get better. You have to make it happen and nobody else." He said, of all the people to walk this planet, someone must have had what you had, and someone must have beat it. And if there is no one, don't take no for an answer. If you keep knocking on doors, one is going to open. And that conversation right there changed my life. I stopped feeling sorry for myself, and from that day forward, I did everything in my power to be healed. I called an ex-NHL player who had a bunch of concussions who was doing really well now, and he gave me this doctor's number who was doing neck injections around the brainstem. My mother and I went to go visit this doctor, and we finally had hope for the first time. He was the first person who said he could get me better. He told my mother that he can give me my life back. And I looked at her, sitting in the chair across from me, and she started to cry. Because what I didn't know is for years, she was feeling all my pain and all my struggles, and now for the first time, there was hope. The shots ended up not working, and after $10,000, we were left with no answers yet again. However, this was the first doctor that told me posture dictates function, and if you take pressure off the brainstem, your body will be able to heal itself. So I knew there was hope, I just needed to keep searching. I sought out my family chiropractor that I grew up going to. I saw him 3 to 4 times a week for a year and a half and was feeling much better. However, if I didn't see him for a week, all my concussion symptoms would come back. I decided to leave my hometown in New Jersey and start chiropractic school in California because chiropractic was giving me some relief at that point, so I figured I would go to school and learn how to heal myself. 6 weeks into school, I started feeling horrible again. My anxiety and depression was back, the headaches were back, the brain fog was back, and I thought I was going to have to drop out of school and go home because the workload was very intense. I was getting tutored by my friend one day, and he told me, I think I might know a guy that can help you. He does the Blair upper cervical chiropractic technique. I was willing to give this guy a shot because he said that this technique was a specialty within the chiropractic field that focuses on clearing the interference around the brainstem, and then they get very good results with neurological disorders. A couple days later, I walked into Dr. Drew Hall's office. After I finished filling out the paperwork, I turn the corner, and right before I go to sit down, I see writing on the wall, and it says, "Expect miracles." And right away, I knew I was in a true place of healing. Dr. Hall brought me into his office, and I began telling him my story. And as I'm telling him my story, I noticed that he's kind of smirking at me across the desk. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is so funny? This is not a funny story. So as I finish up my story, he looks at me, and he says, "Kevin, I had the same exact story as you to a T. I was wrestling my friend, he picked me up, dropped me on my head, and 8 months later I had brain fog, headaches, sinus problems, anxiety, depression, and he too didn't want to live anymore. Someone then referred him to a Blair upper cervical chiropractor, and it saved his life. He then began to tell me, there's no doubt in my mind that we can get you healed and give you your life back. So I said, perfect, let's do it. He took the 3-dimensional x-rays of my neck, he measured the misalignments, he laid me on the table, and said your life is going to change today. After the adjustment, I stood up, and for the first time in 4 years, my anxiety and depression went away almost immediately. I went to the back room to rest, and I felt a surge of life coming back into my body. I felt like I was connected again. I walked outside, and it felt like I had high-definition vision because the brain fog was finally lifted, and I could see again, and the colors on the trees were brighter and greener. And that night I went home and got the best night's sleep of my life. And the next day I woke up and knew with every fiber of my being that this is what I needed to do for the rest of my life. And everything started to make sense again. And after 4 long years, my miracle had finally occurred. And now I don't believe in coincidences. I now know that everything happens for a reason, and that if you keep knocking on doors, one will open for you. And I finally got to see this miracle come full circle. At the end of my internship last year, there was a 16-year-old kid sitting in the office, completely out of it, struggling with headaches and brain fog. He couldn't even really look at me. I stepped outside the room and asked one of the doctors what was wrong with this kid. She told me he had a bunch of concussions playing ice hockey, and he's completely out of it. So I walked back in the room, told the kid my story, and said, I know we can get you better, because I've been there before. The Blair upper cervical technique saved my life, and there is no doubt we can give you your life back. I adjusted the young hockey player and told him to come back in 5 days. 5 days later, he comes back with no headaches, no more brain fog, and he was back playing ice hockey the next week. And that moment right there made all the struggles, all the pain, all the depression worth it, because I got to share this beautiful gift with the world and change someone else's life for the better. What you put out into the universe, you will get back. It might not be tomorrow or the next month or the next year, but if you hang in there long enough, don't take no for an answer, keep knocking on doors, and believe that your life will get better, this world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. Thank you everyone for listening. My private practice is located in New Jersey at Montclair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. If you have any additional questions about today's podcast, other episodes, or any questions about Blair Upper Cervical Chiropractic in general, feel free to visit my website at drkevinpecca.com or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dr. Kevin Pecca. Hope you enjoyed the show. Cheers.